Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen. And the next page in our taco manual is going to take us to one of the classic preparations that you find in and around Mexico City when you go to a place that has tacos de guisados, the sort of homey style. Guisado means sort of stewed or cooked, and so you get a lot of what I call home cooking in those places. Oftentimes they will have 10, 12, 14 different things, and they'll be in earthenware cazuelas. Some of them now are in little steam tables, and whatever you see that looks good to you, sort of like at a tapas bar, you say, yeah, I'll have a taco of that, and a taco of that, and a taco of that. This is a place where you can find a lot of vegetable forward stuff because that's what people eat at home a lot. Typically, when people go out to eat, they'll go for the big meat things, the carnitas, the barbacoa, those kinds of things. But tacos de guisados really celebrates home cooking, which means they celebrate vegetables a lot. So today we are going to be doing one of the classic cactus dishes. The one that has the caramelized onions and the guajillo chile. It's really delicious when you serve it with queso fresco on the top of it. So let's just start with the preparation of the nopales. Okay, so this is what you would find in most Mexican grocery stores. Some well-stocked grocery stores will carry these as well. These are completely uncleaned, though you might find ones that are cleaned already, or even cleaned and cut up like you can find in bags in some of the Mexican grocery stores here in the Chicagoland area. But if you do not get them cleaned, let me show you how to do it. It's not hard at all. You always hold them with a pair of tongs. You could do this with latex gloves on, but it's not nearly as safe. So I always use a pair of tongs. Hold them, and then you are going to cut around the outside, the area about, I'm going to say 1/4 of an inch or so in, going around the periphery of the nopal cactus. And when you get back to the place where you started, where the nopal was connected to the plant, you want to cut that off more deeply, get rid of that. Then holding your knife perpendicular, you simply scrape away all of the nodes. And you want to do this carefully. You want to make sure that you're getting them all. I like to do it with a large knife like this because I can do a lot of it at one time. But if I see an area that I'm missing, I'll just keep going over that. When you watch the guys in the markets in Mexico City clean nopales, it looks like magic almost because they do it so fast and they get all the little spines off. Okay, so that side looks pretty good. I'm gonna get rid of what I scraped off there and then go to the other side. Okay, now that it's cleaned, I'm gonna cut it into 1/2 inch cubes. That's the size I think works best in this kind of a dish. And then I'll meet you back here when I've got all of this cactus cleaned and cubed. Okay, I've got all of the nopales cleaned and cut up. And now I'm slicing up a large white onion in about 1/4 inch slices. Okay, I've got a 4-quart saucepan here, putting it over kind of medium heat. And then I'm going to, I put a couple tablespoons of oil in here already, but I'm putting a 1/3 tablespoon in there. And then I'm going to let that heat for just a second as I transfer all of this over there because I want it to cook slowly. It'll take about 10 minutes for it to become sort of caramelized, deeply caramelized. That's what will get us a lot of flavor in this. So I can see that it's hot now. So I will put that in there. And then the last thing that we have to do for the flavorings here is to talk about this, well, two things really. This garlic, I've had it over a sort of medium-low heat over there for, gosh, about 15 minutes. I'm roasting it still in the papery husk. It's pretty hot here, but I can feel that it's completely soft on the inside. That's what I'm looking for. We do have to take the guajillo chilies and toast them. But first, of course, you have to take the stem end off. And then I usually will just tear them open with my fingers like this. Some people like to use a pair of scissors to cut them open. And you might like that too. I want to get all the seeds out of it. And then this is a very flat one here. So what I'm going to do with this guy is to just lay it in that same pan that I toasted or roasted the garlic with, and I am going to press it down. You may see a little wisp of smoke depending on what the temperature of your pan is. This is pretty low, but I'm pressing it down against the hot surface, and once I can smell it, that means it's released its aromas into the air. Then I press it down on the other side, and you'll notice that it has changed colors. This is no longer that deep cranberry color, but a much lighter color, and that's a thorough toasting that we have there. So I will meet you back here after I've toasted the other two guajillo chilies, and we've got these beautiful onions over here at a deep, rich caramely color. The onion's really richly colored. Let me just show you what this looks like here, because it's a darker than what a lot of people would say, except that I want to say that this is what gives flavor to this dish. And we've got all of our cleaned and cubed nopales that are going to go in here. And I have it over a medium heat here. And I'm going to put the top on here and let it just steam. It'll take about 5 minutes. In fact, you could just set a timer for that to cook it for 5 minutes. And that's when all of the stuff people hate about nopales comes out. It's that sticky stuff, the mucilage, if you want to give it a technical term. But then we're going to uncover it, and it's all going to boil away. While that is cooking for its 5 minutes, let's make the sauce that's going to go with it. So I have the roasted garlic here. Once it cools off a little bit, it's very easy to get it out of the papery husk, like that. And you can see it's got a few little dark spots on it. That's what you're actually looking for. That's not overcooked at all, but it is very easy to peel once it has cooled off just a little bit. Throw those guys into the blender. I'm going to take the toasted guajillo chili and break it up into the blender. That'll just make it easier to blend here. And then we've got a half a can of tomatoes, diced tomatoes with the juice. So you want a half a can. I prefer the fire roasted just because it adds another level of flavor to it. So we'll put that in there. And now I'm going to turn it on, and we're going to make a puree out of it. But remember, guajillo skins are really tough. And so this is going to have to go for quite some time. I would say several minutes to get the full blending done. Okay, let's take a look at it now. Gooey as promised. Okay, so you can sort of see the strings of it come off there. So this is a method of cooking the nopales that in Mexico people would call cooking them al vapor, which means steamed, but it means steamed in its own juices in this case. So I've uncovered the pan now. I'm going to raise the temperature to about medium high, and I'm going to stir it pretty regularly until all of that sticky stuff goes away, and I start to hear that the nopales are starting to fry in the oil that we cooked those onions in. You can hear the nice sizzle, and all of the sticky stuff is gone now, so we're going to put in our flavorings. So all that we blended up here. Now, I will tell you that with a high-speed blender, you can kind of get away without straining it. But even then, I would like to put it through a strainer. This is just a medium mesh strainer. It's not one fancy one or anything like that. Just because there may be some of the skins of the guajillo that did not get completely blended here. I will say that we use a lot of these high-speed blenders at work because we're cooking traditional Mexican food. And I will say that the use of the high-speed blenders makes our lives so much easier because basically we're not having to deal with all of the little seeds and skins problem that I used to have to deal with when we had a less powerful blender. So it's a consistency now of what I would call tomato sauce. We're going to cook it down, stirring it for just a couple of minutes over the medium-high heat. And see, I didn't get anything out of this, but I let that blender go for quite some time. But there's virtually nothing left in this strainer. So I'm going to just make sure that I get all of it off the bottom here. And then I'm going to set that stuff aside for a second and stir this until it's the consistency of tomato paste. It has cooked down now. The seasoning paste, the tomatoes and the chilies and so forth, is the consistency of tomato paste now. And I'm going to add a half a cup of water to it. That cook down period was actually to bring the flavors together. There's a reason for it. So don't skip on that part of it at all. And it just took me a couple of minutes actually to reduce it like that. Now I'm going to put the top back on, but I'm going to leave it slightly ajar like that so it's partially covered. I'm going to let that cook for about 20 minutes or so, again, to help bring all the flavors together. And then I'll meet you back here when we're ready to season it. Okay, consistency is important for me here, so I'm just going to show you what this is like. I like it to be pretty thick, just because when you make tacos out of it, it doesn't all run out. If you go to the tacos and guisados places in Mexico City, especially, I've had this to be so runny that it kind of runs out of the taco. I don't see any point of that, really. I'm going to give it a nice, huge pinch of salt here, and then taste it, obviously, to see where we are flavor-wise. When I tasted it just a second ago, before adding the salt to it, what I thought about is that beautiful sweetness that comes from the caramelized onions and cooked down tomato. And then the contrast of that to the natural tanginess of the nopal cactus. I think it tastes really good. If your tomatoes are a touch acidic, you might want to sprinkle just a tiny bit of sugar in there to counteract that. Okay. And then if it's too thick for you here, just add a little bit of water to it. So I'm going to take a warm tortilla or two here to show you what my favorite ways to finish these nopal cactus tacos is. Take a spoonful of the nopal mixture for each one, here like that, and then sprinkle it with queso fresco. Now this is a place that any of the stand-ins for queso fresco could be used. This is super good with crumbled goat cheese, feta cheese even, is really good on this particular one. And then I like to finish it with a handful of cilantro leaves that I just kind of tear apart and let fall down on them. I like the freshness of that. So there you have nopal cactus tacos in a way that I will say is downright delicious.